All right, everyone, and welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets here for Monday Night Football. It's a two-game slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, yeah, it's going to be a two-game slate tonight. We got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Washington Commanders, a game in which the Bengals are going to be projected to win by 7.5 points there. Decently high-scoring game at 46.5 points. Looking at the injury report here, I will say definitely something noteworthy here is that Tanner Hudson is out tonight in this game for the Bengals. And so that's going to lead to some more tight end snaps just in general for the Bengals. So that is something I want to touch on here. So we'll take a peek at the snap counts. And why I think that's important is because you had Tanner Hudson playing about 18% of the snaps in week 1, no snaps in week 2 because he was out. So that led to an increase in snaps for both Eric All and then also Mike Gesicki. Now, Drew Sample is the one that's actually leading the way there. But you're going to see we are having some prop bets that are popping up that are good bets, like a couple of EV bets as well. We can actually start there here. So we'll start with the Bengals. Like one of the best prop bets that we have is actually going to be Eric All for under his receptions. But again, I'm a little bit worried about that one, just given the fact that he should see an increase in the snaps that he's playing in general in this game. So that's a good EV bet that we have. Like I'm still going to make that bet, but at the same time, you can see my hesitation just given the fact that you have a good pass catcher in Tanner Hudson out in this game. And so that does make me a little bit concerned about potentially betting the under for Eric All there. And that is one of the better bets really on both sites. So underdog as well. It's going to be a good bet for us to bet there as well. So again, it's a little bit concerning that that's one of the top bets that we have. So let's stick with the Bengals here, and we'll stick with underdog here. That's really the biggest piece of like injury news that I think we need to bank on right now. But just looking at some of the other good prop bets that we have, this line for Joe Burrow pass attempts has been one that has been fluctuating a decent amount today. It started at 33.5 on the underdog, has since went up. I'm guessing that's the public getting in and really increasing the odds on that passing attempts prop. The average sportsbook line has it around 34.4. So I would say 34.5 is on the higher side, and that's what the data is telling us now. It like on PrizePicks, it's at 34. Like that's being valued as a push. Probably not one that we need to go out of our way to target. An interesting one here is T. Higgins. So I guess that's part of the injury report. T. Higgins is going to be back healthy. So that's where we probably are seeing something like Eric All, where his lines are a little bit lower than you would expect. And my thing with T. Higgins, and that I worry about with T. Higgins, is maybe it's the same thing or the same worry that we have with like Brandon Ayuk. So I was really hyping up Juwan Jennings for the Sunday night game, for the afternoon games there for San Francisco, both in DFS and props betting, because I felt like he was going to be the actual receiver number 1 in that game. And that was rooted in the fact that Brandon Ayuk still doesn't look like up to game shape just yet. And so I would have those same reservations with T. Higgins as well, where I just don't think he's going to be in like game shape. Now, could he catch the touchdown? Sure, he could. But I am more on the side of betting his under here, which we are seeing on underdog. It's at 70 or 47.5. Like I'm fine betting the under there, even though the average sportsbook line is telling us to bet the over there. I'm still going to be okay with that. Now, I do want to point out the reason as to why that line seems to be like too high to me is the fact that he's going against probably the easiest matchup of the whole season for him. Now, that being said, Jermaine Burton is someone that has looked good. Watching the film last week, the TV crew, made a point of emphasis to talk about Jermaine Burton because the coaching staff made a point of emphasis to talk about Jermaine Burton, kind of hyping him up. We saw Andre Yoshivash have a really good game, a pretty awesome toe tap. I shouldn't say really good game. He had 2 touchdowns. Those were his 2 only catches. But that being said, like, how many snaps will T. Higgins play? And like, is he really going to be the receiver number 2 right away? And so I do see maybe just T. Higgins taking away some of that production from the tight ends. But at the same time, that line does seem to be too high to me. And so maybe we can actually find a bet here through the sports books here with T. Higgins. Maybe a bet that's going to be a better EV bet for people to potentially chase. So let's take a peek here. T. Higgins, just in general, are we getting any edges at all? Not really. But this is interesting here. So FanDuel has his receiving line set at 44.5. HardRockBet has it set at 47.5. I would actually love the under here of HardRockBet. So it's about minus 115, guys. So if you are someone that has HardRockBet available in your area, that seems to be a good bet for us to go out and attack, to me personally. Now, obviously, the data is not really suggesting that because, well, we don't have that big of edges at all. But very interesting there. Another one, DraftKings, if it's not as big of an edge, but 46.5, minus 120 to get the under there, like not terrible as well. but some decent edges, and we can see some decent prop line differences there. Like it's off by 3 compared to FanDuel and HardRockBet. So definitely interesting there that we are getting that potential edge there for him. And then just sticking with this game, we are getting a couple of edges in terms of like kind of more unique prop bets. Looking at Zach Moss for over first quarter rush yards. I don't hate this one. Like he is someone that has been playing a lot more than probably people would want. We'll jump back into the cheat sheet here, go to the NFL DFS tab just so I can show you guys this. And I want to get into Zach Moss's like snap counts. So he went from 65% of the snaps in week 1 to 80%. And in a weird way, like week 1, Zach Moss definitely looked better. I actually thought Chase Brown looked better last week, but maybe that's just due to how they're being used. But him playing that much is definitely crazy to me. Like that probably shouldn't be happening. But at the same time, if that is going to be happening again, if he's going to be playing, let's even in the middle of that, 73% of the snaps, then something like his first quarter rush attempts, I don't mind. And he is someone that should get the first crack at it as well. That's kind of an interesting hedge that we can do where maybe Chase Brown does play a little bit more, but I still think it's going to be Zach Moss starting, and we don't really have to worry about the hot hand, at least in the first quarter. Now, the worry is that the rushing attempts really haven't been there too much for him, but this is a matchup that promotes the Bengals running the football a little bit more. And maybe just, again, having someone like T. Higgins back healthy does open the field a little bit more. I'm not buying into that too much, though. But that interesting line there that's popping up on Underdog. Then another one as well, Chase Brown for under his fantasy score, 6.65. I struggle with this one because, again, he did look good on film last week. In week 1, it was just like he should have had a touchdown on a play where he just runs into a defender where he just needs to bounce it outside. Most running backs make that, and actually him, typically speaking, would make that play. It was weird that he didn't bounce it out as someone that typically does bounce out a run. It's like he was coached into not doing that. It was just a bad play. But this is not bad. I would say these two somewhat correlate as well. Like I don't hate that. We can directly see probably why that one is popping up as a good prop bet. We look at his rush received yards, 38.5 is what Underdog has it at. So if he's going to get under that, then yeah, it's going to be more likely that he gets his under fantasy score. But again, it wouldn't be shocking to see this be the Chase Brown game. At the same time, it wouldn't be shocking to see him not have as many snaps. I want to bring that up because on Sunday, there's a lot of situations where players that you would expect to have good seasons at the start of the year all finally kind of had their breakout games. You look at maybe the Carolina Panthers, a bunch of them had good games. Now, I know that was due to the quarterback play. Amari Cooper was someone that went out and had a good game as well. So week 3 seems to be kind of the balancing out week as it sits right now, to the point where maybe someone like Chase Brown, who did get a lot of offseason hype, maybe it does finally come to fruition in this game. So not a terrible one, not a great one. I will be running that one out. From there, we do have Mike Gesicki for under his fantasy score as well. 53% edge here. Not crazy, but not terrible there on Underdog. I'm perfectly happy to run that one out. You look at what PrizePicks is valuing him at as well, valuing him much higher than Underdog. Same thing with the average sportsbook line. So that is one I will be running out there as well. Decent edges today on Underdog with a lot of these lines. Let's go ahead now and jump on into PrizePicks again. And so PrizePicks, we do have the Eric All prop that's popping up. And then from there, nothing too crazy. Like if you want to do Zach Moss, I guess for under, maybe his rush received yards, maybe Zach Moss for under his fantasy score, that's there as well. Nothing too crazy. And again, we do have that maybe a middle opportunity there with Mike Gesicki. But if we're betting on the Cincinnati Bengals, we're probably doing it more so on Underdog. So let's go ahead and jump on into the other side of this game here. Looking at the Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders are going to be relatively healthy for this game, which is a good thing for them. The biggest thing I want to look at here for you guys is kind of just calling out the snap counts for Brian Robinson and for Austin Eckler. So kind of the workload split that I think most people would have thought at the start of the year. But given the fact that Washington's going to be playing from behind in this game, I do expect to see Austin Eckler a little bit more in this game. So if Vegas is right about how this game is going to go, this is going to be a very big Austin Eckler game. And so just in general, let's see if we're getting any good prop bets on Austin Eckler, specifically in the receiving department. I know his receptions prop was at like 2.5 on both PrizePicks and Underdog. At some point today, that has gotten bumped up now because that was too good of a bet for us, basically. Like you guys can see it right here. So yeah, I mean, BetMGM minus 150, ESPN Bet minus 130, HardRockBet minus 130. So they were all giving him great opportunities to get that over. And if we look at it without the juice associated, it's about 53.6% edge for him to get over 2.5 receptions. So that was already going to be a good bet for us. Let's see if we can find any other spot. I mean, geez, if he gets 2.5 receptions, guys, this receiving yards line is crazy low, I would say. I'm actually curious. Let's do receptions and receiving yards for him. I'll show you guys this on PrizePicks and Underdog as well. This is kind of crazy to me. So where's the best bet probably here? I would say if you guys are like me and like his over 17.5 receiving yards on HardRockBet. If you guys have that available, that's minus 120. I don't hate that bet. That's a pretty solid bet right there. And are we getting any sort of edges potentially on his 2.5 receptions? Maybe one sportsbook is a little bit lower than everyone else, and that's really just HardRockBet again. Maybe BetMGM as well. HardRockBet, yeah. So some of those sites are probably the better ones. Obviously, if you think he might struggle, maybe you think Washington's going to win. FanDuel for his under 2.5 receptions would be the way to go. Now, looking at like the PrizePicks board, it is funny that for Austin Ekeler, that is like the best bet that we have is for his under rush receive yards. I would say don't do that. I actually don't mind him today. I would definitely stay away from that one because again, if they're playing from behind, he's going to be the player that's going to be on the field a little bit more. After that, that's really all we got. So yeah, PrizePicks as it sits right now is actually taking off the Austin Ekeler receptions prop. We'll jump into Underdog, see what's going on there. So for Underdog, kind of more the same, not really big edges, I would say, really with the Washington Commanders. Probably don't need to do much here at all. If you were wanting to like go with maybe Austin Ekeler for his over fantasy score, you would want to do it here. I mean, that's really maybe the biggest edge. I will say, like, it wouldn't be surprising to see like Zach Ertz have a big game. Terry McLaurin is someone that I would say fits under the mold of like Amari Cooper, just someone that's due to have a big game. But do I necessarily want to bet on that? No, but it could happen. Let's go ahead and jump on into the next game. So in this next game, we have the Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looking at the injury report for the Buffalo Bills, they are pretty much good to go. Okay. Looking at the game total, it says 46 for the game total. The Bills are going to be 5.5 point favorites. And I do find that interesting. The Jaguars are essentially just, I don't want to call them the Dallas Cowboys, but they kind of are, where some games they show up, some games they don't. It's just kind of is what it is. The biggest piece of injury news I would say that we have is Tanks Bigsby. Is he going to be active in this game? Because if he's active in this game, that could lead to Travis Etienne losing out a little bit of work. In week 1, Bigsby actually played a big role and actually looked very good. In week 2, he got injured basically right away to the point where we saw a little bit more of Travis Etienne, but we also saw De'Aaron Hurst-Johnson get some work as well. So that is a variable that I just don't think we have the answer to just yet for the Jaguars. And so let's look at some of the prop bets that we are getting. I guess another piece of injury news, Evan Ingram is listed as out for this game. So we are looking at Brenton Strange to be involved in this game. He had 6 targets in that game. And so I don't know really why that occurred. I would say because Ingram was a healthy scratch in warmups, or he got injured in warmups, sorry. Not a healthy scratch, he had injured in warmups. That didn't change their game plan at all. They still had some plays that seemed to be schemed up to tight ends that Strange was hit with. Now this week, where they have a full week to prepare for Evan Ingram to be out, I don't know if I necessarily would want to bet on this. So that's probably going to be one I'm staying away from. I would actually expect someone like Christian Kirk to have a better game. And I do want to point out the receiving yards difference that we are getting for him on both sites. We're seeing that PrizePicks is definitely a little bit too high compared to everywhere else, compared to the average sportsbook line, compared to Underdog, whereas Underdog is a little bit lower. So I do, again, like week 3, I think we could see some stuff kind of happen. And my kind of thought was when that injury occurred, that it should help out Christian Kirk. And so I think I would want to do that. And the line I would want to do is his over on Underdog. Now, Christian Kirk did have a touchdown call back earlier on this season as well that was away from the play. The flag was away from the play, or was an illegal man downfield, one of the two, but it didn't like affect the play. Like he scored the touchdown. It's just an annoying flag. So like I feel like he's due for a big game. Like nothing seems different about him. And again, you take out Evan Ingram in a week where they can plan for that. I kind of expect that to happen. So again, we're not going to get good prop bets on Christian Kirk on PrizePicks or Underdog today. That's not happening. And prop wise, unfortunately, we're really not getting an edge there. I just checked, nothing too big there. So again, really the only bet that I could potentially see for Kirk would be actually on Underdog, where you're doing his over receiving yards, just trying to attack that prop line difference. Do you want to call Trevor Lawrence for over his first quarter passing yards is a good edge that we have. Now, because it's kind of a nuanced line that we have, we're basically just taking his full game projection line from Vegas and then cutting it into, 3/4 of that, it typically is going to be a little bit lower. Definitely an interesting line though, I would say. And heck, again, you could potentially just pair that with Christian Kirk for over 2.5 as well. Receiving yards. I actually don't hate that. I think that's fine. I think that's a good stack. But yeah, we're just really not getting too crazy of big edges here on Underdog as well for this game. So let's go ahead and jump on into the other side of this game, the Buffalo Bills. And so for the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be more of the same in terms of, we had that slight first quarter passing yards edge there. Not terrible, not great. We have Dalton Kincaid for over 3.5 receptions as well, which is an okay bet. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It will be interesting to see how the Bills choose to attack the Jacksonville Jaguars. We look at the matchup for Dalton Kincaid, one of the more difficult ones through 2 games of the year. Now that still is a small sample size, not a big conclusion there, but we did see kind of the shorter routes be the choice routes for Josh Allen last week. So Dalton Kincaid ended up getting 4 receptions in that game. And then Khalil Shakir is the one that also had a big game as well. But the production is certainly being spread around. Keon Coleman is someone that in week 1, I'm like, all right, this guy's going to be a star. And then he had 1 target last week against Miami. So I don't hate this over bet for Dalton Kincaid. I'm still going to make it on Underdog. And for what's worth, guys, on Underdog, they have been given a lot of boosts out there, like 20%, 50% for bets. So if any of these are standing out to you guys, or if you guys want to use the bet of the day, use that boost that's going to be available on Underdog. Again, if you guys have never signed up, use the promo code 9to5. That's just the easy way to support the channel. I'll give you guys a 100% match on deposit up to $100 as well. But from there, yeah, that's really it that we have there for the Bills. So let's jump on into PrizePicks, seeing if we're getting any edges there. And we have one there. That's going to be James Cook for under his rush and receiving touchdowns. After getting 3 last week, I would say kind of makes sense, kind of regression to the mean. He had 4 off last year, had 3 last week. So yeah, I could see that in just a typical regression. Matt Collins for under 1.5 receptions. I actually kind of want to take a peek at that one as well. If this game is not competitive, it is tough to see Josh Allen getting 6.5 rush attempts. That was a bet that popped up basically the exact same way it is today, but they just didn't need him to. They blew out Miami in that game. Thus, they just didn't need Josh Allen to rush the football. And the rushing attack was working extremely well with James Cook and with Ray Davis as well. So they just didn't need to rush the football with Josh Allen. So if this game's going to be blowout, yeah, he's not going to be able to get that over. But yeah, real quickly, I do want to call out the snaps for the receivers last week. Like, Gabe Davis is not leaving the field for the Jaguars, just as an FYI. And then Christian Kirk did play a lot of snaps in that game as well. But looking at the Bills, Matt Collins is playing a lot. It seems like they're kind of picking their spots as to who they want to play, when they want to play them. But Keon Coleman is the player that's playing a lot. Like, I expect him to have a good game, just given the amount of snaps that he's playing. Matt Collins is kind of just a guy. Like, do you expect him to get a lot of snaps? I don't know. It's tough to say. For what it's worth, James Cook, it was a blowout, only played 47% of the snaps. Ray Davis looked good, 31% of the snaps. I think that is something we're going to continue to see. That's actually something we saw last year as well with James Cook, where he wasn't really in the amount of like opportunities he was getting. He was kind of like an RB2. He was producing extremely well, obviously, but the amount of snaps he was getting, it was like a flex player. So very interesting there with the snaps there for James Cook. But real quickly, while I was thinking about it, are we getting any good bets for Keon Coleman at all? Any at all? I don't think we want to touch a rush receiving touchdown at all. But if he's going to be on the field 90% of the snaps, I don't hate an over bet for him for his receptions. I mean, you can get this on FanDuel. Minus 136 to get over 3.5 receptions. Now, that only has a 42% chance to hit. That's my way of saying I would say this is probably closer to like 47. So you'd still be favoring the under pretty heavily. But at the same time, I think that's, given the amount of snaps that he's playing, that seems to be a little bit too low. And given his like talent, he looks good. Like, that seems to be a little bit too low there as well. So I don't hate that bet, but I want to call that out. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the bets of the day. Do you just want to call it if you guys want to use out that any of these PrizePicks props? If you've never signed up before, make sure to use the promo code the number 9TO5, and you guys will get $50 deposited into your account when you spend your first $5. And just real quickly, going back to one prop bet I want to call out, Jaden Daniels for his under fantasy score is one that has been popping up in and out in terms of like edge being higher. On Underdog, the under is not bad. You look at the projection data, 17.2. Average sportsbook line is valuing it more at 16. So that is one that is a decent edge for us today as well. I wanted to call that one out. So looking at my favorite bets for the day, I did talk myself into the Christian Kirk higher than 2.5 receiving yards in the first quarter. I think that does work well with Trevor Lawrence for over his first quarter passing yards as well. I did mention a bunch of prop bets, guys. Like if you liked any of the other ones, by all means, you can use those. But these are going to be the ones I'm looking at. I don't exactly love the Chase Brown under fantasy score as well, but that was one of the better prop line differences that we got in terms of how Vegas sees this game going. Again, just watching film, he did look better than Zach Moss last week. We'll see. Austin Eckler, I do like for his over 2.5 receptions, and Eric All for under 1.5 receptions. Those are two bets that probably will get bumped. If they do, that's kind of unfortunate. You can still run them out if they have that, whatever the slightly decreased payout, like if it's still 0.9x. Like I don't hate that, but definitely hurts them a little bit more. I do really like Austin Eckler, though, to have a good game today, just given that game, how it's projected to play. Now, the two bets I'll be running out here for tonight's action on PrizePicks, at least, is going to be the Jane Daniels one, and then also James Cook for under his rush and receiving touchdowns as well. Do want to show you guys two other prop bets that we have on the day that you guys can go ahead and place with that bet if you guys choose to do so. Bryce Harper for over 7.5 hitting fantasy score, and Sabrina for under 6.5 assists. So WNBA, MLB prop bets as well. All right, that's going to be all for today's video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to them for just $10 a month. All right, thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.